eyes cracks, or yeah, just don't laugh too hard.
Just a little.
Yeah, it's okay for your littles. Okay, my name is Brandon C., and I'm here today to refute the claim that the current BCS format, which is for college football, is insufficient in determining college football's national championship winner. My opponent used three secondary claims to back up his argument. He said that it leaves opportunities for teams to finish undefeated and not play for the title. Two, the current system relies too heavily on preseason rankings. And that three, the system neglects successful programs outside of the major conferences. To refute his first claim, which says that it leaves opportunity for teams to finish undefeated and not play for the title. This is wrong. Because there's over 100 Division I-A playoff teams or football teams in the country, and basically with 100 teams, you're bound to have teams that are undefeated and that are undefeated because they played teams they played against. Also, playoffs, and he alluded to the fact that playoffs would be the correct solution in order to fix the problem. But playoffs would be hard to set up since neutral stadiums would need to be found, and in order to find stadiums for several games would be hard to find because first you'd have to decide how teams would get to the playoffs and how many teams would be in that playoff. Also, playoffs would mean there'd be more games for college students to play. And as in a quote from University of Nebraska Chancellor Harvey Perlman, he said that a 16-team, 4-round playoff would be during many final exams and extend the season into the second semester. Players would be hard-pressed to be students. The bowl system provides rewarding postseason experiences for far more student-athletes than it will ever in a playoff. We should continue to nurture that system and to permit our student-athletes to enjoy the many benefits of the bowl experience without requiring them to play what is, in effect, the equivalent of an NFL season. Simply put, you can't expect a college student to play what a professional player plays because they simply just don't have the endurance. In addition, the way the current system is, every single football game is like a playoff game because it affects their rankings depending on who they beat, and where they were prior. My opponent's second claim was the current system relies too heavily on preseason rankings. This is wrong. Mostly because there are no such thing as preseason rankings for the BCS. The BCS uses several organizations that rank it once the season starts. But prior to the season, all rankings are just preliminary. They don't mean anything. In fact, they change a lot once the season starts. Because the actual BCS does not make its official rankings until the 8th week of the season. So basically the 8th game into the season. Which means that by that point, the team has already played several high or low-ranking teams, has lost by a certain margin, and where the team started and where the team ended up in the rankings, in the preliminary rankings, can vary greatly. For example, Oregon State was ranked 11th initially by the Harris poll, which is one of the polls that the BCS takes into account for its rankings. It was ranked 11th, but now it's 2nd. Auburn University was ranked 32nd. But now, due to its impeccable play, it has risen to 2nd rank. Meanwhile, initially 4th ranked Florida University has played poorly so far this year and is now not even ranked, which means it's not within the top 25 teams. Oh, sorry, Auburn University was ranked 23rd. My opponent's third claim was the current system neglects successful programs outside the major conferences. This too is incorrect because while it is harder for teams outside of the conference to get in, it's because of a contract that these conferences have with the BCS. The BCS is it's kind of like a company, and the 6 conferences that are within the BCS have contracts that allow the champion of that conference to be able to move on into what is called the bowl game. Meanwhile, for the other divisions, it's slightly harder because they don't have that same contract. But they still can. For a non-major conference team to enter the BCS, the team has to be ranked in the top 12 of the final BCS standings, which frequently does happen. In addition, the team can also be to a bowl championship game, and therefore the BCS. If a team is ranked in the top 16 of the final BCS standings, and is ranked higher than a team that is a guaranteed championship. So basically, they mean that teams have to prove themselves. They're simply not given the rankings. They have to play the teams that are higher because they're ranked by professionals. They're ranked by the Harris poll, which is by sports analysis. USA Today, the coaches poll, which is made by more sports analysis, and then computer rankings. So basically, in order for the team to improve, they have to prove to themselves. They have to prove that they can play both better opponents and prove that they have, gotten better in their defense or offense, as well as the teams they play. So thank you. Once again, my opponent's claim is that the current BCS format is insufficient in determining college football's national championship winner, and I'm here to explain to you why that is false. Thank you.
All right, well, you laid out the goal of the advocate, and then you follow their structure pretty clearly, so organizationally it's not bad. You have a counterclaim on the first point, but you know what? It's really hard to figure out exactly what your inference here is. It seems to suggest that it's not possible for a team to be undefeated and not make it into those rankings. And I seem to recall the advocate having some examples of that, so I'm not sure your analysis really undermines that example. That's a little bit problematic. You're resorting to a policy argument on some of these points, suggesting what the consequence would be of playoffs. And the playoff argument is really, like I said, it's a policy issue that didn't come up much. Got mentioned in passing, I think, in the advocate's argument. It was not really the objective of the advocate's point. It was merely for the purpose of contrast to what we have now compared to what others have in those particular situations. So I think you get a little bit off on a tangent on that issue. You did have a good quote, though, on the problems with that particular point. Then you get on the issue of the importance of the rankings. I did think that you had a pretty clear explanation about how the notion of the preseason rankings being largely irrelevant, primarily because the BCS rankings don't come out until the 8th week of the season. And I thought that you did okay on that. Although your examples you need to be more careful about and consistent. Make sure, for instance, that you've got Oregon and not Oregon State. There's a difference between ducks and beavers, and we want to make sure that we don't screw that one up. It was a little bit more confusing than it should have been. And then your explanation about the contracts with the BCS, I don't really think that helps you very much. It just explains why the system is all mucked up, because some people have a contract and others don't. The people who don't have a contract are the ones that are getting screwed, which is what the claim of the advocate was in the first place. So I think that you've got a little bit of a problem on those points. All right, thank you.